Hello, everybody, and welcome to this episode of Skill Up Like a Superhero, a webinar being brought to you by Captain Hyperscaler and myself, Dwayne Natwick, a certified trainer for AI CERTs, Accolade, ISC2, Osaka, Microsoft, with many years of experience and many certifications. Very excited today to be doing this webinar slash podcast with a member of AI CERTs, a partner of Captain Hyperscalers. And with me today, and we are going to talk about understanding and educating yourself for the expanding AI landscape. And with me is Khalaf Haddad. Welcome, Khalaf. Thank you very much for being with us today. Why don't you tell the audience a little bit about yourself and your background?
Well, thanks for having me here, Dwayne. It's great to be with you. In my role as Senior Director of Learning and Development with AI CERTs, it's my joy to help connect people with the information they need to succeed, something that I've enjoyed doing over the last 30 plus years. Like you, I started out in technical training, a lot of networking and security courses and whatnot, and over the years moved into leadership and facilitation. Even had the chance to do some course content authoring and certification exam building. And with the opportunity that AI presents, it is really exciting to be a part of the next wave, as it were. I think you've seen that as well over the years. There have been different waves of technology that have come in and created surges in demand for training as it creates skills gaps. How do we take on to the next new thing? And so with AI and the huge opportunity that it provides, it's a great spot to be in.
No, definitely why I speak on and talk about AI quite a bit, and one of the main reasons why becoming a part of the AI CERTs group and being a training partner and instructor for AI CERTs is a huge aspect to it. And a couple of things just to kind of share as we before we kind of get into the question aspect of things is there's some of these thoughts around AI taking my job, and I'm sure you have some thoughts around that as well, Khalaf. And I get this question anytime I do any kind of AI fundamentals course or anything like that is, what are your thoughts about AI and how it's going to take tech jobs and IT jobs and content developer jobs and all of those things. And I love this slide because the fact is it's not going to take your job, but somebody who knows AI will. I love the way that that's stated, because that's the thing that I tell a lot of people. And me and you both are based in Michigan, and so I use a lot of automotive analogies whenever I'm teaching, and I we have this idea within automotive, and some people are creating this fear that electric vehicles are going to take the jobs of auto workers. And it's the same concept exactly, where a car is still going to be built on an assembly line. It's just whether it's a combustible engine or it's a electric engine, it's going to still be built. If you don't learn about how to build an electric car, somebody that knows how to build an electric car will take your job. And it's the same kind of analogy that you can take to AI, right?
Yeah, wholeheartedly agree. I was just even hearing this quote yet again reinforce that idea. I thought about, it's not hard to stretch one's imagination over the years to think of jobs that we've lost, like the person who's responsible for shoveling coal into the engine of a train. Or it's like, where did that job go? Because I really wanted that out of high school, but nobody says that. And I think it's the same thing. And again, speaking of being in Michigan, just outside of Detroit, the most beautiful city in America, and I truly believe that. Come by and visit. It's a fantastic place to be, and we're so thankful to be here. That being said, the automotives are a great thing. Like in the 70s, when robots were introduced onto the assembly line, now people were freaking out, and the union had a fit, saying, "You know what? Robots don't have families to feed. How can you give our jobs to robots?" And I remember hearing the story of somebody going into the break room around that time, and they saw on the wall there was a phone number for where you could call to sign up for classes on robotics repair. And who do you think had a job a year later? The people that
Hmm.
called that number.
Right.
So, today, the transformation that AI is bringing about is it's hard to say unprecedented, because we've seen tectonic shifts in industry. Things like the introduction of the printing press, the introduction of wireless communication, the development of the internet. There have been massive shifts. What AI is poised to do, though, is on a scale that I don't think we've seen before. And so the old adage "adapt or die" couldn't be more true. Now, initially, I think it's going to be it's always this awkward, clumsy dance trying to figure out how to go forward with it, though, right?
Hmm.
And how do I even begin to talk about AI? Is it safe to use AI? What am I going to delegate to AI? What job will I want AI to do for me versus what do I want to do or continue? Is I think there's a famous or an infamous, depending on which side of it you are, a news story that came out about a year ago of a lawyer using a generative AI tool to generate a legal brief and submit it. But the generative tool apparently imagined some other cases it referenced, and it led to a severe sanction of the lawyer who submitted it. So again, you can't blame the tool. It's the person using the tool that's always going to be responsible. So as long as we see AI as a tool, I think that goes back to having a job specifically, and we can put the coal shovel to the side and embrace
Yep.
AI going forward.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of addressed this already a little bit. Obviously, yeah. I mean, we've talked a little bit about AI and about the growth, and really, like you said, it's explosive. It's been very accelerated over the last 12 months, and you kind of hit on that a little bit in terms of roles and job descriptions, and what that case is. It's going to create a lot more opportunity
Mhm.
than I think, in terms of, for people, like you said, that robotics repair person, who's gonna help to manage and govern over the data sharing and prompt engineering and things like that. So what are some of your other thoughts around that?
Yeah, and I think that is it. What I'm encouraged to hearing is that from the get go, people are appreciating the role that ethics is going to play in this. Having these strong conversations about a responsible use of AI. To me, that is encouraging, because we're already seeing the uh, some negative use cases, if I can put it mildly,
Mhm.
with deep fakes and whatnot. And so people are already, and from the very beginning, inserting that ethical conversation um, into AI use cases. So as we go forward and start looking at generative AI to do all kinds of task automation for some of the mundane stuff. Now, I think we're still a ways from AI being as creative as human beings. In fact, personally, I don't think they'll ever be as creative as humans, simply because AI is a human product, and the best it can
Right.
do is emulate. But in that getting close, we're feeding it so much data and and information that has to be absorbed by these generative tools to be able to create content based on that. We run into that question about what happens with that data. Now, Dwayne, I know, with a lot of your security background, what are you thinking in terms of issues of privacy, or how would you encourage people to look into uh, keeping that keeping that data safe and secure in the process?
Yeah, I mean, that's like you pointed on, AI, and just like any other application, is only as good as the people that and the approach that people take to create it. And so so obviously, making sure that it's free of bias and it's free, and we're building levels of transparency so that we know where that data is, so that we can trust that information. But also from a privacy and security aspect of things, um, I've I've done a lot of talks around data and preparing data for and the handling of data for AI. And as I've thought about it and kind of just, when everybody thinks of AI as just this great massive thing, and this really, some people are scared of it. you know we've seen science fiction movies for 30 years around the rise up of the robots, and the Terminators coming back in time, and things of that nature. So to try and kind of take that fear and take that scariness out of it, I've tried to break it down much more simplistically in terms of how do we handle data, from exposure of PII, PHI, sensitive data, with anything else, with any other application. And it's really a data, and to me, what I've broken it down to is really a data engineering approach.
Mm.
And when you think about, you think about the cloud and where all this data is coming from, where we're ingesting data from, whether it's Google Assistants or Amazon Echoes and things like that in our house, all these connected devices. I always talk about how my own home has evolved over the course of the last 10 years, and how many listening devices and internet connected devices I have in my own environment, just in my home. And then you take that to a level of a organization that has sensors and has all these IoT devices that are ingesting all of this data. It's no different than when we are prompting and gathering information for generative AI use for creating content. We want to make sure that that from a privacy and security perspective, is we know where that data is and we're segmenting it properly. So somebody that is prompting and creating something out of our out of a out of Chat GPT or Meta AI or Genesis or anything like that, that we're not grabbing that sensitive information. Back to your example of the creating a legal document and it pulling somebody else's legal brief or something like that. We want to make sure that that data is segmented properly and has the proper data loss prevention on it, the proper governance, the proper insider risk prevention, and proper information barriers in place, and from a security perspective, really using the pillars of like a zero trust methodology is going to help with that. And that's all going to go into our privacy and really our ability to provide transparency and build confidence in people that are using AI, that they're not going to overexpose information. So those are things that I think about. When it comes from your perspective, and those solutions that are brought up, like ChatGPT and Genesis and Meta AI and everything that's advertised, everything that's advertised on commercials. And just to kind of talk about it, just kind of give like a side note on that. I always laugh. I always use this when I'm talking about like security and multi-factor authentication, and using like Face ID for like for Windows and for your iPhone and your Android. I always have a situation where I have that conversation with my wife. I'm like, you need to put Face ID on, and her comment always back to me is, I don't want Apple to have my face. I'm like, have you looked at your photos lately and how it organizes based on your picture? They've got your face. So and we see those commercials on a daily basis. So what is your thought around all of these different solutions and kind of the areas of concern that maybe people should really really think about when using them, when using these tools.
Yeah, yeah, that face sorting thing gets me. You're right. Is, people might not associate the fact that that face sorting is an artificial intelligence
Yep.
already in use, and we're seeing a very powerful application. There's a dear friend of mine who applied that to his personal photos. And so every week I get an alert when he's taken a new picture of me, or if I've appeared in any picture where he is, I was like, oh, and he's been, it's like for the last 14 years, and it's cute that he's shared it with me. I kind of appreciate that. And so I think when we consider those issues of data sensitivity and privacy, maybe a more realistic picture, the fact that we've walked outside, people have seen us. Now, uh, we might have some feelings about people taking our picture and using that as some sort of a filter or a data point, and then uh, but it's already out there. So the fact that we have a driver's license or a passport, I think the concern is again going back to ethical use of it. How do we know how that data is going to be used? And that, I think, is where some of that fear and uncertainty comes up. And yet, for we might not realize that when we do use a generative tool like a Chat GPT or a Meta AI or Google Gemini, the data that we feed it becomes part of the model. So when we're looking to summarize an internal memo from within our company, or where maybe we give the Gen AI tool the talking points and say draft the memo. Um, the fact that we've given that, now we've offered that data into the model and it has become part of that. So it's an interesting transition, because I think there's also a generational marker that the privacy issues become a generational marker. Younger generations are a little more comfortable being a little less private,
Hmm.
uh, and yet uh, in that social media sense, the personal privacy is one thing, but then there's a corporate responsibility for things like trade secrets. I've spoken with a company recently that was concerned about that very thing. It's like, we have to specifically mandate that our employees do not use the Gen AI tools for these specific tasks,
Hmm.
because we don't want to give up the data that we have spent years collecting and putting that into the model that anybody can reference it. But then the second part to that is, even if we are using a generative AI tool, it's not just the input, but the output we have to worry about. Those hallucinations, like that legal brief that was citing cases that didn't exist,
Hmm.
or a few weeks back, I was doing some genealogical research, and I said, just out of the blue, maybe I can get a date, and one of the Gen AI tools spit me back a date. I said, okay, great. Where did you get that information? It couldn't tell me.
Hmm.
So, and granted, I don't think that Gen AI is meant to be a a search engine replacement. I thought it might have combed the data, so I gave it a shot. But there's a third thing I think people don't realize. When you're using a generative AI tool, particularly for writing, you can begin to start sounding like everybody else.
Yep.
And earlier this week, I read an article where the rise of these generative AI tools has seen a spike in specific keywords that have shown up repeatedly through content generated by these Gen AI tools. So, for example, words, I like the word delve. It used to be a nice way to say, "Hey, we're going to do a deep dive into this." So we
Hmm.
use the word delve, and for some reason, uh, the generative AI tools have picked up on that and have made it their own. And that is, in this research paper, one of 300 markers that is used to identify uh, uh, content as more likely having been generated. But whether whether it's you're sounding like everybody else because you're sounding like the tool, or you're asking Gen AI to write in somebody else's voice for humorous effect, but
Hmm.
also again the concern of doing it ethically. Um,
Yeah.
we don't want to lose our own voice when using a generative AI tool,
Hmm.
and I'm speaking maybe from a text based thing, but I also appreciate from the design world for artists, photographers, illustrators who are concerned about their content being co-opted as well.
Yeah.
The good news is while Gen AI can approximate sounding like a human, it's still not at the place where it has the breadth and possibility of creativity. And so that's something I would leave to encourage people with. At the end of the day, we humans still have a creativity level that lets us continue to, if you will, rule over the Gen AI tools, just offloading the tedious tasks to them and freeing us up. And that's again the ideal use.
I mean, to that regard, and the loss of voice and all that, to kind of give a positive spin to that. One of the things that like I been teaching a lot of AI classes, like AI fundamentals classes, and talking about responsible AI.
Mm-hmm.
And while I was doing that in the spring, I was watching the Detroit Tigers game, and it was Lou Gehrig weekend in Major League Baseball. So they were talking about ALS, and obviously ALS is a degenerative disability where you lose your muscle capabilities, including speaking. And
Right.
and they've had those adaptive computers that they can use their eyes. I think it was like Stephen Hawking was probably one of the first that kind of used one of those.
Mm-hmm.
um, and they had a particular person that had ALS in in a conversation in the booth, that that they used that person's old voicemails and record like videos, home videos and things like that, and used AI to then put his voice into that computer, so he can still
Wow.
speak with his voice to others. And that's kind of the reverse of what we were kind of talking about in terms of some of those ethical concerns, but
Mm-hmm.
those are some of the great possibilities that AI has for people, that so they don't lose their voice from that direction as well.
Yeah, and see,
Where
that's
which are great things.
yeah, and that's the again the power of AI, but the power of tools in general. It can be a force for good and a force for not so good. And so one of the challenges going forward is making sure that again, going back to that ethics question, that we have good ethics. But in a day and age where these have to be discussed, how can we better educate people? Here's a question for you. Being in the education space, how would you use education or have it play a role in that responsible use?
I mean, obviously, there's a lot of things um, around AI that help others, that we can use to understand. And like you said, around the ethics,
Mhm.
one of the great things about what AI CERTs has put together is the ability to bring together the understanding that's needed around AI and around
Mhm.
AI ethics and around responsible AI. Um, I spend a lot of time talking about that when doing any kind of AI fundamentals, is making sure and being educated on your responsibility in using those tools, and your responsibility in understanding how your own education, your own culture, your own upbringing, so to speak, is going to influence any, if you're developing applications around AI tools and things like that, it's going to influence that. So not, being educated, being understanding around that. And then when when you are sitting down and developing those tools, understanding your role, whether it's locally or globally, in making sure that that you are properly handling the responsibility. So one of the things in terms of, education is very key. It's not just technical education, it's not just development, it's not just understanding the security aspect and security controls, and and ways that you have to protect data and the cloud and all of those things. There's the professional role based of those that are using the AI. And that's no different than, to me, again, I always kind of try and take it down as an educator to a simplistic level, because, everybody hears AI and they're like, oh, they get kind of scared by it all. But it's no different than understanding the risks that you have in terms of an email from somebody that you don't know where it came from, and
Right.
clicking a link. It's no different than phishing awareness. It's you have to
Yeah.
have an understanding before you can go and utilize it. So, companies put in phishing awareness campaigns, and do phishing phishing campaign. They send out phishing emails to see who clicks on the links. It's no different than for AI. Everybody
Mm.
should have some level of education. There should be some some part of an organization's awareness and education and training that has to do with using these tools, using ChatGPT or Genesis or Meta AI
Yeah.
for
You you
business. And
you know these the you know I really as looking at these slides, Dwayne, and hearing you, you're right. Companies are already you're doing other types of campaigns, but interestingly enough, as you look at these numbers, there's a wide acknowledgement that there's a skills gap and people need it. But look at those last two, and that's what
Mhm,
really amazes me, is that at this point in time, with this AI wave cresting, I mean, even if somebody is like, "Oh, I don't pay attention to technology. I'm in the business world." Well, I've got one word for you: NVIDIA. If that hasn't brought your attention back to
mhm,
AI, what will? And so you look at those last two bullets there, 17% of organizations actively trying to address the skills gap. And then there's this troubling note there: 82% of workers see a lack of training as a potential reason for switching jobs. The onus is on organizations to prepare their people
mhm.
for this next wave. And over and over again, and again, you can call out my bias on this, and that's why I've been in the training industry for over 30 years, is because I truly believe it is much more cost efficient to upskill an existing employee than to watch them leave, hire their replacement, and train them back. All that
Mhm.
organizational knowledge that walks out the door with a disgruntled employee is difficult and actually, in many cases, impossible to replace. And so, investing in your people is the best way to prepare for this next wave. And because you want to retain good workers, you want to retain loyal employees and reward them. Uh, but training isn't a reward; it's an investment in your organization.
Mhm.
And
It's like you're reading the first newsletter that I put out for my organization. Was I actually had that data around, and one of the things that I was pointing out was exactly that.
yeah,
It investing in your people, like you said, it's more costly for a person to walk out the door and you have to hire somebody else than to paying a proper wage to that person so that they don't take that wage and walk out the door. But
and
also,
sometimes,
like you said, providing
yeah.
it increases morale if you're providing that training, providing what they want, what they need.
Exactly, and sometimes it's not even the pay issue, they just want to feel that personal
Mhm.
growth. Now granted, people do wanna be paid fairly, that is definitely part of the equation, um, but offering them an extra 10,000 on their way out the door isn't going to keep them
No.
for much longer. But creating that culture of valuing, employees and investing, and I think that's what's kept you in the training business for so long as well, Dwayne. You don't do this unless you truly believe in
Oh,
the
yeah.
power of people and loving the opportunity to help people, improve, not only their personal skills, but their ability to take care of their families, to contribute to a great culture or organization.
No,
So,
absolutely,
yeah.
absolutely. That's exactly why training, I I've always kind of found myself being gravitated to it, even if I was a product manager or a content creator or whatever it was,
Mhm.
or a solution architect. It's always been like I've always felt in my element in terms of of sharing that with other people, and that's exactly that. You want to pay, there's a level of gratitude that and self-worth that you feel in paying it forward sometimes. That that's kind of I think where we all come from in terms of trainers and educators. Something it took me many years to figure that out, especially being married to a woman who's been in public education for 30 years herself, and just to kind of see, you see her well up when she taught first grade for years, and now she teaches art, and just that love for that, and the ability to then take that in my aspect to help to fill those skills gaps, and like I said, those organizations that put that investment in their people are the ones that are they're going to be the ones that continue to succeed. They're not constantly looking for people that are that fit the mold. Put the training in their people and all of that, which brings me to kind of another point in terms of what AI CERTs is doing. I know, and one of the reasons why I gravitated and became a partner for AI CERTs was around not just the technical side of the training, but also the professional side of the training. And one of the things, and those of you that are watching this can scan the QR code, or you can go out to CaptainHyperscaler.com and find some special. We do here what we call Fridays, and cleverly with AI in it. So, and we do these every Friday. The next one's actually the project manager one. Actually, was moved to October. The first Friday in October, but our next one is around ethics, and it is next Thursday. It's not on a Friday because of the Labor Day weekend in the United States, so we did move it to Thursday. I can't put AI in Thursday just as easily as I can Friday, but these are one day trainings that we provide. There's a certification, an exam voucher that comes out of these. There's also a lot of on-demand content that you get with this course as well. We're offering it a very economical rate for a one-day training. And so you can see lots of as we want to get those professionals, that 82% trained that are saying they're not getting enough training. This is a great way to do that, and the partnership that my company has with AI CERTs and Khalaf's team is essential to that. What is it? What's the AI CERTs goal in terms of training? Was it a billion people in
our goal is to certify 1 billion over 1 billion people in AI and blockchain technologies, and this is a great first step toward it. Dwayne, we really appreciate this initiative. I was trying to figure out, where do you put AI in Thursday, and maybe you replace the Y at the end.
Yeah, the Thursday. Yeah,
there we go. But and so with the it looks like, as you see there on the slide there, it includes the test voucher. Being able to achieve a certification lets you burnish your LinkedIn presence and inform people that you're taking this next wave seriously and you're prepared to engage in the conversation. So as you can see, some of these are role-based certifications, such as the educator or the project manager. And you can go to the website and see that we have in place 34 certifications, both largely around role-based, so that you can speak into your industry about the upcoming power of AI. And one other thing I will add is that all of our certifications do incorporate a section on ethics. So although there is that entire one-day ethics course, which is a great one coming up here, we have the we have ethics incorporated into everyone's, because it is, with all of the scariness that people have around AI, we want you to know that we want it, I think everybody wants it grounded in a good place that benefits everyone. So Dwayne, I really appreciate your taking this one by the horns and driving it forward in your marketplace, and look forward to many great things from you and your team in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you very much for joining me here today on this webinar and podcast. Hopefully, everybody gained some valuable insights. Feel free to, we're live on LinkedIn and be available on LinkedIn if you come across it and watch it. Feel free to reach out to myself or Khalaf with any questions. Again, we'll be putting this out there, the recording and everybody. It's there. And it'll also be on the Skill Up Like a Superhero podcast for the audio aspect of things. But definitely follow us and subscribe. Follow AI Certs. Follow Captain Hyperscaler about upcoming trainings. We're working on also delivering some the technical aspects, which are not one day. They're a little bit more of an investment of a week-long course, but those are great to be a part of as well, and to provide in terms of security and data handling data and developing applications around AI and how the role that cloud plays in AI. Or those are all key things that us technical people like to talk about as well. So thank you again, Khalaf, and as I always close out, always be learning and continue to skill up like a superhero.